Okay, so all this time we have been looking for missing sides, but now we might be looking for the missing angles and given all the sides. So we're going to learn about that today. So you're trying to find out the angle of your skateboard ramp or something like that. Okay, we're going to skip the table at the top for just a minute. So to find an angle, we can use an inverse of your trig ratio. So let's say that our sine angle is equal to 0.5. So let's say sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So let's say that our opposite is 12. Oh, sorry, 6. And our hypotenuse is 12. So 6 divided by 12 is 0.5. Okay, we'll show you that example in a minute. So in your calculator, depending on your calculator, you would put in 0.5 second function sine or second function sine 0.5. So take a look and practice in your calculator to get the inverse. You should get an angle of 30 degrees. If you don't and you're having trouble, come ask me. Sometimes it's not second, it'll be either INV for inverse, or sometimes it'll be shift. And once you can get that 30 degrees, go to the top table. Okay, so here's our top table. So let's start by finding sine 42, cos 84, and tan 19. So those are just finding, like we were doing before, no inverse, we're just finding what the ratio is. So these are what you should get for the ratios. And once you get that, I want you to practice using the inverse, sine, cos, and tan, to see if you can get the angles again. Okay, so you should be getting the same angles. If not, again, please ask me. Okay, so when we're trying to find the angle, I always suggest that you sketch your diagram. Label everything you know on that diagram and mark the angle or the sides, depending, that you're trying to solve. In this case, we're marking the angles we're trying to solve. It's going to make your life so much easier to identify the relationships of the sides and angles if you have a picture. And then lastly, we determine what ratio to use using the SOHCAHTOA. Okay, here's our first example. A 12-meter guide wire, it should say guide wire, I think, is attached to a pole at a height of 9 meters. What angles form between that guide wire and the ground? And then what angles formed between the wire and the pole? So draw your picture. So I have this triangle, you don't, so draw in a triangle. Okay, here's our 90 degree. So it says draw a picture, label. So label what we know. So we know that the pole is 9 meters. So we're going to say that's 9 meters right there. I'm also just going to label my triangle A, B, and C. So then when I'm talking about angle A, angle B, angle C, we know what we're talking about. Okay, and then what else do we know? We know that the guide wire is 12 meters. So that's our wire there. So it's saying now we have to mark the angle. So what angle is formed between the guide wire and the ground? So here's the wire meeting the ground. So that's the first angle we're going to look for. Okay? Okay, so now you're going to find the relationships between our angle and our sides. Okay? So if we're looking for angle A, what's the relationship of 12 and 9 to A? So if we go across here, 9 is opposite, and 12 is our hypotenuse. It's our long diagonal side. So we have opposite and hypotenuse. So in our SOHCAHTOA, so is what we start with, opposite and hypotenuse means we're going to use sine. Okay, so try setting up your ratio, and when you're ready, go to the next slide. All right, so sine A is opposite over hypotenuse. Sine A should be our 9 over 12 that we found. We go 9 divided by 12 to get 0.7500. And then this is where you have to use the inverse sine. of your ratio, and you should get A is 48.6 degrees. Now you could, because now it also asks for the angle formed between the guide wire and the pole up here, you could use trig again, and then you could say 9 is adjacent and 12 is hypotenuse, and use cosine. But at this point, you have two angles, so we could just say 180 degrees minus 90 minus the 48.6 gives us an angle B of 41.4 degrees. Okay, so example 2, solve the triangle below. So that means find all missing sides and missing angles. So this one's just one step further because we have to find the missing side as well. Now, there's a multitude of ways to do this, so you might do it differently than I. So I want you to try this out on your own and see if you can get the same answers as I do. Okay, so find the missing side. I used Pythagoras. I could have solved for the angle first and then did trig, but I didn't. So I was looking for my missing side C, my hypotenuse. So using Pythagoras, I get 147.6 meters for my hypotenuse. Then we're going to look at the angles next. Okay, so I decided to pick this angle down here first. And I said, okay, this is my angle. So over here, 120 is opposite, and 86 is adjacent. So opposite and adjacent is, if you're using SOHCAHTOA, it is your A and your, oops, sorry, TOA, O and A. So we have opposite and adjacent. So I took 120 divided by 86, and I got 1.3953. Remember to use 4 decimal places. Then I took the inverse tan to get an angle of 54.4. So once I know that, this was 54.4 here, I just took 180 minus our 90-degree angle to find the missing angle of 35.6. Now, if you didn't get those answers, please ask me and I can help you. Again, you might not have done exactly the same as I did, which is perfectly fine. And so now we're going to complete the assignment and ask if you have any questions.